Banshee are Irish as well. Ah, okay. And yeah, there is quite a lot of Irish mythology in D&D. Right, you wanted to see missions. Now, the problem that I have with showing missions versus saying ideas is there's so damn many of them, it's really hard to get context without knowing them myself. Like, going through all of this versus that is just really difficult. So, if you have a specific question, like, how is this player doing on these missions, do let me know. But just, like, generally, how are people doing on missions? It's hard to judge, honestly. Because different people have different sized mission trees, like Anbennar at the moment seems to be doing really badly because they haven't done any. Oh, that's why Arboran declared them. They were trying to stop them getting the Rohibon area. He's already got the virtue of conviction. He can get the virtue of charity, which does seem to be a bad one compared to all the others. And then is there anything that you get for completing all of the convictions? Oh, he's got noble knights. Legitimacy leaders without upkeep and cost of advisors to the ruler's culture for 20 years. And then the Crimson Deluge. I must say, Anbenar's mission tree does actually look pretty cool. I think one needs a number of convictions to unlock the Legator missions. I mean, that does make sense. Yeah, embody 6 of the chivalric virtues. Currently 1 of 6. Embody all of the chivalric virtues. Knight Resplendent. So Anbennar still trying to build up. I can hear them building a lot of buildings at the moment. Well, that's probably development, actually. Arboran seems to be recruiting more and more troops. Still with a very high amount of manpower. Finances looking incredibly healthy. Your income is 129 versus your 43. How is Arboran getting so much money? Trade. Because they're in the Dame's Crown and they control a quarter of it. Should be a bit of a naval face-off between Small Country and Arboran, and there is. And Dame's Crown too. Dame's Crown is the nation that I'd really like to see with a mission tree. Because if I remember correctly, they don't have one. No, it's just generic. And considering like this is the most wealthy merchant nation, this is like Venice. The fact that they don't have one is weird to me. Oh no. Ranra, what are you doing? The Dejanraji subjugation of Ranra. Dejanraj is the... No, it's not the boss man. You have now been... subjugated? Nope, you've just pieced out. But this does seem like a series of very bad decisions coming back to haunt Kalinicus. I'm sorry. Meanwhile, Small Country fighting against Vern. 100% discipline against 105. This is a mercenary army. 12,000 manpower versus 20,000. Small Country seems to be getting absolutely obliterated, though. by Vern's force. And I'm going to guess Small Country's not watching this battle, otherwise he probably would have retreated by now. And definitely would not have retreated just next door. $2,000 against 13,000. This is Bucelar trying to prove themselves, their overlord. Are they going to win this fight, though? I don't think so. There's too few of them. Nope, they lost. This is when the small country should really, back off. There you go. Meanwhile, in Rezenkand, Eberthil and Vern still with large armies. Here's the battle. 100,000 against 55,000. I think that Vern's numbers are starting to count. 105 discipline against 105. 4.7 morale against 4.1. Decent backline for both of them. Printing press has just appeared. And there we go. Durgatheon has been sent packing. And Rezenkand's armies seem to be over there. Nickliff, meanwhile, has regained all of their territories, and Nickliff has been taking out Vernmanso Ruin. So one of the vassals is losing ground pretty quickly. How is that war looking? Vern is apparently losing both of them. The Nickliff one in particular. Does Small Country play like the gnomes in that they use a lot of technology? No, not at all. Small Country are all about mercenaries. Their regular armies are beyond terrible, but they're very numerous. You can get really, really big armies. But really, their true strength is mercenary. Like, their national modifiers for troops is really, really bad. The other thing that Small Country has going for them is this. Even though they are sending out 60 ducats in subsidies, they're still earning 40. Like, Small Country makes Arboran look poor. So Small Country is all about throwing your money around. They are the Netherlands. Minus so many ships, although they can certainly go naval as well. Who's a big trading power that doesn't really use ships? Novgorod? But Novgorod doesn't really have high development cities, which Small Country does. Belgium? Belgium's not really a trading power, though. Is that true? I mean, they have Antwerp. Like, you hear so much about Dutch trading prowess, but I think Belgium has their own mercantile tradition. Like, they have a monopoly on diamonds, and that takes some doing. Swiss, they're not up in the mountains, though. They're not very defensive. Like, the Small Country really is all about just having huge amounts of development, which they can then use for huge amounts of manpower and huge amounts of money. Oh, can't check the map modes. I was trying to look at the simple map mode so I could show you how much flat land they have there. It's the Dutch minus the naval tradition. Pope, they're not religious. Japan, again, no naval tradition. Bohemia? Possibly Bohemia. I could see the comparisons there. And then the other very Dutch thing about the Small Country is they come from a revolt. So they start out as a number of very small nations, just like the Dutch states. And then they erupt in a revolution against, or revolt against, Gowed and Lorent, who are their occupiers. That's the true origin of Small Country. Although this player formed it from BPEC. And BPEC in this is very much going to be like Amsterdam, Holland. Persia can get a lot of trade, but they're not naval. But Persia was more to do with the fact that they're on the Silk Road. Small country is also really industrial. You know, I'm going to say small country is more like Belgium. Because I don't think Belgium had a particularly good naval tradition. They certainly have a mercantile one. And they certainly have an industrial one. And they're also high concentration population. I would say it's more like Belgium. With definite Dutch overtures. They're the Flemish. They're not the Belgians, they're the Flemish. So yeah, small country ideas. Morale of armies plus 10, infantry combat ability plus 15, national manpower plus 15, hostile core creation plus 50, attrition to enemies plus 1, improved relations plus 20, caravan power plus 20, production efficiency plus 10, goods produced plus 10, spy network construction plus 20 with a capstone of manpower recovery plus 10. However, the real defining thing for them is this. National manpower plus 10, manpower recovery plus 20, mercenary maintenance minus 50, mercenary cost minus 25, cavalry combat minus 20, galley combat minus 20, discipline minus 10, shock damage received plus 10, mercenary discipline plus 15. Do their missions do much? Their missions are mostly about developing the area. So it's like building up grey mill, it's building factories, it's developing the honey industry, it's getting the Tipney leaf, which is tobacco. It's very much internally looking rather than external. No, they don't do a huge... I think it's more like Flanders. Small country are the Flemish. They take the trade that other people generate and then make something out of it, which is what the Flemish did with British wool. It was the start of the cloth trade. There's always been a very symbiotic relationship between medieval England and Flanders, because the British made a lot of wool, and then all of that wool was exported to Flanders, where it was converted into cloth and sold. And that's the role that I see the small country having. I think we're having a couple of connection issues. Just take another look at the Discord channel. See if people are talking there. Rebel Thunder's internet just died. Who was Rebel Thunder? I have a feeling that's Durga Theon. Nope, that's Envy Crusader. I forget what nation you are, Rebel Thunder, I'm sorry. BPEC is trade, but small country is development, so I think that the Belgian comparison is very much in place. Yeah, I mean, in that instance, BPEC would then be Antwerp, rather than Holland. And then small country as a whole is Belgium. How are the Wood Elves doing this session? They've managed to extricate themselves from that huge war. They lost most of their Marhold territories, which was expected. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't take more damage than that. Although they were only ever at about 50% war score, because Phoenix Empire just wasn't attacked. Oh, he's Yordland. Yeah, okay, that's an important one to have. Not Turkathion, the other big nation in this war. Yeah, okay. And there we go, we're back in. So this player lost. Anyway, we were taking a look at the small country because we wanted to see the simple terrain overview. And this light green, which dominates the small country, is farmland. And this is where a lot of their innate power comes from. Same down here with Lorent and now Rubenair. Which is why Rubenair, despite the fact that they've been a relatively quiet nation that hasn't done a huge amount, they're still third overall. Like, Rubenair is very much shaping themselves up to be a kingmaker. In fact, both Rubenair and Small Country are. And Small Country aren't even on this list. But have exerted a lot more pressure than Rubenair have so far. Who are you allied to? Vern and Adenica. Rubenair and Adenica alliance I like a lot. Rubenair being pseudo-Lorent and Adenica basically being the embodiment of chivalry. And the whole reason that Actually, does Rubenair have cavalry buffs? I know I've checked this before, but I forgot now. Yes, they do. Not as much as Lorent, but they do. Although they've taken Minara, not Adian. Interesting. But yeah, if Lorent exists together at the same time as Adenica, those two are basically just going to be permanent allies. They'll have so much in common, and it very much behooves each other to keep the other alive. Lorent, because they can provide the financial and manpower outlay to keep Adenica alive, then Adenica just for the stupidly elite armies, which rely on heavy cavalry. And the two can fight well together because both of their armies are going to be very heavily reliant on cavalry, so their armies are kind of built in the same way. The English weren't sheepish with the amount of wool produced. I'll see myself out. Nice, Mustardi. Nice. Cubic, thank you very much for the 33-month resubscription. Very much appreciate that. Thanks for another month of fun. You are more than welcome. And Hexdex, thank you very much for the 33-month resubscription as well. Appreciate that. Slagathor's butt, thank you for the follow. Fred wants me to drink some tea. Shavrash coming in with a 27-month resub. Thank you very much for that, Shavrash. The Great Moon Zini, thank you for the follow. Innkeeper has cheered some bits. I'm just going to go and double check Streamlabs. See if there are any messages attached, because I also see that Sindrin sent a message, but I think I did catch that one. And then J Devith, thank you for the follow. Good to have you all joining us today. Hope you're enjoying this series so far. Way to ram that one home. Nice. Oh yeah, Sindrin was the, what do you call a dozen elves, 12s. And then Nuskoth the Innkeeper cheer for December. December? It's October! I was about to go, yeah, fair, it's December. Feels like December. We've had some absolutely terrible weather. It's just been canning it down with rain all day here. Bjarnrik's building a couple of troops up. 145,000 manpower. Lots of money in the bank. Good amount of income, good amount of surplus. There are definitely some interesting nations growing up around here. Gnomish Hierarchy, 60,000 manpower. Again, decent amount of income. Healthy surplus. And the gnomes, of course, going to have the crazy good artificer units. So even though numerically they may be inferior, they have these guys. And Conwell and Gebert have not grown a huge amount recently. Huh. However, that's sneaky. So the Ryaland Temple and Telgir are both vassals of Gebert, and they are cutting Conwell in half. And Conwell, no vassal. So Conwell, what you see is what you get. Still very much expecting a conflict between those two at some point. And here we go. We have a battle between Wesdam, Conwell, and Silverforge. This is a AI war, though. Istralor, Wesdam, and Dame's Crown. Looks like Conwell's going to come out of this one just fine, so they're currently going after Istralor. Meanwhile, Frozen Moor being attacked by Krakdumvor. How did you fare in your war? You lost the hold. Do you get attacked by Krakdumvor? Kugdir, Haraz Odlum, Krakdumvor. Yes, you did. So Oslam Asdir just cannot catch a break. And they lost the Science Dwarf hold to Krakdumvor, who's now seemingly doing pretty well for themselves. Are you still in debt? Only 800 ducats, 7 loans. Oh, and Shattered Crown's back. Right. Do I like Civ 6? I like Civ 6, yeah. It's alright. These days I'd probably say I prefer Humankind, but yeah, it's good. I've always liked the Civilization series, though. Do I live in England or Scotland? England. Hope you're all feeling sheepish for those puns. Meanwhile, Raisenkand is not looking too healthy. We've got Eberthil armies up here in the north. Raisenkand's still going to have the Severed Coast, but their continental lands are being lost. Meanwhile, Neckliffe is occupying the Vernon Soruin and moving on into swampland now. Huzzah! Fabis, thank you very much for the 17-month resubscription. Very much appreciate that. What's wrong with all of you? However, Necklife seems to have some vessels here. Vern's got their transport fleet in that port right now. Looks like Eberthil's locking Yordland and Neckliffe's navies in port, although that's 38 heavies against their 30. And Eberthil is building more. I wonder if this is going to encourage any of these colonial powers to take more naval ideas. Actually, you know what? That's one of the things we're going to look at. We're going to take a look to see what idea groups everyone's now getting. So we've got Bios Carvo with Strategic, which gives them a lot of military and sieging abilities, and also the advisor cost. We've got Exploration, which is obviously for the colonists, and the Exploring, and then Industrial basically builds up the territories themselves. Does it come with a dev cost? It does. So Industrial is basically just the economic aspects of economic ideas without the financial parts. Then we've got Adenica coming in with Noble Academia, which is cavalry, Imperial Ideas, which is effectively influence. Why did you take that? You don't have any vassals. Not sure why you took Imperial Ideas, unless it's a combination. Ah, that's why. Cavalry cost, cavalry combat ability. And then Economic Ideas, which is the financial part of the old Economic Idea system. So production efficiency, national tax, construction cost, yearly inflation reduction, interest per annum, governing capacity, ship cost and regiment cost, yearly tax income, that's just a flat amount of money, and then dev cost as well. So both industrial and economic give dev cost. That's interesting. Next up, we've got Ancardia. Bearing in mind that Ancardia, I believe, was AI, so industrial and quantity was chosen by the AI, but that actually seems like a pretty decent choice. Quantity giving them more numbers, industrial giving them the finance capabilities, and then Imperial. So why have you gone Imperial? Imperial and Industrial is absolutism and force limit contribution, and then quantity is morale of armies and military advisor cost. So the policies with Imperial are good, even if Imperial ideas are a little bit lackluster. Van Rahar. Defensive and Industrial. That's also Fartho. Thieving Arrow, Cold Rage. Strategic and Economic. Seems like a decent combo, getting their military up a little bit more. Particularly combined with tech, they are goblins, so they're going to be kind of like the gnomes in having some high-tech shenanigans going on. And they have infantry combat ability, movement speed, morale of armies, shock damage reduction, No, sorry, shock damage increase. Siege ability. Church power, potentially. Colonists. Native uprising chance, native assimilation. Innovativeness. Goods produced. And legitimacy. Except they're a republic. Next up, we've got Commander Faceless in the Gnomish hierarchy with innovative ideas, which with the gnomes makes a ton of sense, just going to double down on the technology. Exploration ideas, because he wanted to go to colonial, and then plutocratic, which also makes sense because the technocracy is a really, really strong republican government form. And then we need to wait for another hot join. Which is Rebel Thunder coming in again. This is Yordland. So clearly a couple of people having net issues today. It happens. It happens. Gives me the opportunity to pour myself another drink. So in the meantime, another topic for discussion is I pretty much finished my Italy run on Worlds Ablaze yesterday. And we're doing Hard to Find next. And I need to decide what I want to do. Still going to stay in World Ablaze because I really like that mod. I think it's very, very good. Stubborn Mordred is saying we should do Italy again. Because I am determined to prove that I can do more with Italy than we have done so far. Now, especially that I know about the heavy anti-air rather than anti-tank and anti-air. We just do support heavy anti-air with infantry divisions and then focus on tanks and try and get actual tank divisions relatively early. Another option would be Britain. So we see the UK from the other perspective, so we're still fighting in Africa against Italy. We would have the naval fight for the Atlantic against Germany. Or we could do the Soviets, which I've heard is a real challenge because of how strong Germany is early on. I'm not convinced that I know enough about how land combat works yet. So I'm not sure that a Soviet game would be necessarily the right option. Because my gut reaction playing with the Soviets would be, ooh, infantry. But we saw yesterday how garbage infantry are. But we could still try. And we would actually have the industry to support large blocks of infantry. Which is, of course, the challenge with Italy is our industry is really, really bad. I don't know if that's me screwing up the industry or if Italy's industry really was just bad. I kind of feel like it's the latter. I think those three would be the main options, though. Japan, I don't like playing as Japan in Hard to Find. I just don't. Vote on Discord, it will be. I'm just wondering if there's any other options. Now, it has to be a major power that has a tech tree. Because I want to play with the major techs, because I think those are very interesting. It really changes up how the different nations interact with each other. But personally, I'm kind of leaning towards probably the UK or Italy. And Stubborn Mordred is very much here enforced, saying, Italy again? Let's see if we can win Africa. Probably would withdraw my troops from Ethiopia. Would I, though? Is there any real reason to do that?